Craig, and on the event teaming model, we have the 6 conditions of the optimal work environment, and collaboration is condition number 4. And I'm an avid believer because similar to projects, you operate in a time-sensitive environment, and the amount of pressure mentally, physical on individuals and teams is actually enormous from day one. And I find that similar to, and I'm sure projects start the same way. They start, where they are at. And so they come together very quick from various diverse cultures and experiences and so forth, and they start to work on their project. And I find what is really challenging, and I think if event leaders and project leaders can see, is that if you create that optimal work environment, which collaboration is number 4 of the 6 conditions, you create those habits, that structure right from the beginning, and you put accountability and responsibility to that, you were going to have success because you're going to have consistency and you're going to build resilience and you're going to be able to adapt and learn in a very quick environment. But if you don't start that from the beginning, I think that's where it becomes a challenge.
Well, if you don't start it, the culture will evolve on its own by default.
Exactly.
Because a lot of teams, people get hired to a job, they just come in and they start working on whatever's in front of them.
Yeah, well said.
So one of the things that's missing, that we see missing often, at the beginning, is a proper project kickoff. So you've got owners, contractors, subcontractors, support functions, executive teams. You bring all those entities together in a workshop, and you run a well-designed kick off the project session so that by the end of the work session, everyone's fully aligned. They have a shared understanding. They all walk out on the same page for how we're going to work together, how we're going to communicate together, what the plan is, what the milestones are. So you have the obvious things like the technical overview and what are the tough, tricky bits and what's the cost and schedule requirements and safety. All those critical hard measures, you get alignment on those traditional aspects.
And I believe we both agree that if leaders follow the path from the onset, then the workers and everybody will follow, yeah?
Yeah, but then here's the magic bit. That's the technical kickoff. Then there's beginning the journey of addressing the collaborative side of the project for the next 2-3 years, because projects last 2-3 years. So what do I mean? Building the required relationships and connections between the entities, stakeholders, that can withstand all the ups and downs over the next 2 to 3 years. And there will be ups and downs because projects never go according to plan. So that building those relationships, creating the permission to openly discuss difficult issues together, co-designing the project culture that will give you the best project outcomes rather than letting the culture just evolve on its own anyway, and you find out by banging your head into walls. Just aligning on what's the best way to communicate across the project, who can talk to who, is it totally open channels? Those things, when you do a project kickoff and you add those things to it, you're literally creating and installing the project culture that you want by design.
No, well said.
And that just works.
Yeah, and that just works.
There's one other method pointing to the thing you said about you got all these stakeholders and some of them are diverse stakeholders.
Uh-huh.
You have to, somebody once said to me, if I say I trust you, what I mean is I feel my commitments are safe in your hands. You're not going to mess me up, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if all the stakeholders, all the functions experience that their commitments were safe in the project's hands and the project felt their commitment were safe in the function's hands.
Yeah.
That would be like a miracle. So there's a way to do that. It's aligning the expectations of each of those entities. We've done it live, but like in face-to-face, but we've also done it on WebEx. I'll give you an example. There's a deep water oil project being done in the Gulf of Mexico that we were coaching. It's a $7 billion project. They had decentralized all their support functions. So think marketing, gas sales, HR, all those support functions. They went from centralized to all around the world. Like if you took the Supreme Committee support functions, rather than being housed in Doha, you had HR in Manila, you had another thing in the Philippines, another thing in Australia. So they're all over.
Yeah, gotcha.
So what we did to align them is we spent 2 hours with each function to get them clear on two things. What are you committing to for the whole project globally? And what are your top 3 to 5 needs, requests of the other entities and of the project? What do you need from them?
Craig, just to interject there, what I really like about what you've done there, first of all, you appreciate there's a time challenge with projects. You're not taking too much time away from them. You're injecting where you can, when you can, and so forth. And quite honestly, your last question there, engaging the stakeholders, getting really to understand what. And I use the phrase dependencies. What are the key dependencies you have with everybody, and what are you committing to? And that shows the accountability and responsibility as well. It makes everybody accountable and responsible.
Yeah, so this process is about, let's say you are procurement and I'm the project. Well, what do you need from me and what do I need from you to have this be a successful project? So they get clear on what they're going to ask each other of. You got that? Then we ran a workshop and we did it over WebEx. So you had project on one side and you had procurement on the other side. I'm just looking for this example. So how it works is like this. Project goes first. They go, okay, procurement, here is what we're promising and committing to regarding our relationship with procurement. Here's what we stand for to make your job easy in working with us. That's the first thing. Second thing is, here is our top 3 requests of you. I'll make one up to give you an example. We request that when you select a contractor for us, you don't just base it on cost. You include that we have to work with them for 3 years, and they have to share the same project philosophy as we do. So that would be a request, okay? Then they have the conversation back and forth, and that's where the magic happens because they start to understand each other's concerns and commitments. They get a shared understanding. At the end of that, it lands in one of 5 places. Either they accept the request, it's a yes. They decline the request, it's a no, and they tell them why they're declining. It's a no and a counter offer. For example, Gordon, I can't bring you 10 tons of gravel to the site on Monday, but I can bring you 8 on Sunday and 2 on Monday. It's a counter offer. Okay? They can do a conditional promise, which is, I'll bring the 10 tons to site if you'll loan me 3 pickup trucks to haul it in. So I'll do this if you do that. Or if you don't have the information to make a commitment, you say, Gordon, I can't let you know now, but I'll let you know at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, one way or the other. Those are the only 5 committed responses to any request. Yes, no, counteroffer, conditional promise, promise to commit at a specific later date. Anything other than that is avoiding commitment. So for each one of their requests, they land in one of those 5 places. 95% of them are yeses. By the time they have the conversation facilitated, it's a yes. And that goes on an artifact on a grid that goes in everybody's office. And that's the behavioral commitment-based work plan for the next 6 months to a year. Then you have to refresh it after that.
Greg, similar to projects, large-scale projects, as you can see, you do a lot of virtual work as well. And I think that's going to be more and more complicated, especially like for the FIFA World Cup coming up in USA, where you got 3 distinct countries, 3 distinct cultures that need to collaborate and communicate. And they're kind of laying the groundwork now because every other World Cup has been in one country type thing. So I think that's going to be a massive challenge to make sure there's a collaboration format in place and structure in place. But so what I want to ask you is that how challenged did you find facilitating virtually that type of facilitation between teams? Was it a big challenge? I'm an avid believer. I think you can work virtually across both face-to-face and virtually, but definitely within the virtual world, you've got to put structure to it. You got to make sure you come to the meetings prepared, and you've got to prepare others prior to coming to the meeting. I believe in that, and actually, you've got to really build that relationship as much as possible virtually, including cameras on and showing up and no telephones and so forth like that. What's your thoughts on that?
My thought is you're right on, and you have to create that with them at the beginning on the first WebEx that you have. And maybe before you start your WebEx work, you have a 1 hour WebEx where you're just creating the structure, what it's going to take to have it be successful, your commitment to have every WebEx be valuable, people walk away with value that they can go use. And by the way, in order to do that, you have to show up on time, you have to have your camera ready, all the
Great
production
insight.
stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.